This is Lariah Hayes from Chaotica.
Hey guys, this is Thomas from Camelot.
Hi, this is Heather Michelle from Grave Shadow.
This is Alex from Lisa Eyes.
This is Nora from Battle Beast, and you're listening to the Great Metal Debate podcast.
Hey podcast listeners, welcome back to the show for another metal artist interview. I'm here with the Siren of the Eventide, Adrienne Cowan from theatric power metal upstarts Seven Spires. Adrienne, thanks so much for joining us on the Great Metal Debate.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, before we get into the band's background and music, I know you guys were a last-minute addition to the lineup at Prague Power USA this past weekend. How did that come about, and what was the experience like?
Okay. How did it come about? I have known Milton, who works at the festival as a promoter, for a couple of years. I've been attending the festival since 2015, and on Wednesday night, he called us and said, "Can you get on a plane tomorrow?" And of course we said yes, because Prague Power is it's the perfect festival for us, especially in the U.S. And the experience itself, it was like a dream. It was perfect. Aside from having to scramble logistically and, find Jack a guitar and, some pedals. But aside from that, it was like a dream.
Is there something to having a spontaneous spur-of-the-moment show like that?
Oh, as soon as I came back, I started working on new demos. So, yes. And I think we were all just really, really excited. So, it helps our onstage chemistry show everyone that we love each other even that little bit much more.
And Prague Power always hosts some amazing bands, especially from Europe, and that had to be just amazing to share the stage with that roster of bands.
Oh my gosh, yes. Actually, the Saturday, which is the day that we opened, that was the day that I bought my tickets for. Like, I was going for the Friday and Saturday, but I was very excited about the Saturday lineup because many of my favorite bands were playing. So it was really, really cool to open for them.
That's awesome. Well, I know you've had quite the exciting past few weeks before the excitement of Prague Power. I understand you were stuck in Houston during Hurricane Harvey. That had to be a harrowing experience. First, is your family and friends okay?
Yes, we are actually all fine. Thank you for asking. We lost power for, I think, 3 days, but we are extremely lucky. We live on a hill in an elevated area, so no flooding or anything. We're fine.
It's amazed me just watching online how both Harvey and Hurricane Irma as well, the metal community, how folks kind of have reached out to one another, and people are generally, whether you're in a band or just a fan of bands, they're concerned about band members who are in harm's way.
Yes, it's a really, really beautiful thing. I think Houston was on the news for just, people regardless of gender, race, religion, anything. Everyone was helping each other, and that's how the metal community is always. But I think there was some trouble. The drummer of Oceans of Slumber had a pretty bad hit from the hurricane in his house, and just watching the metal community help him get his shit back together has been really, really cool.
That's awesome. Well, getting back to the music, for folks who aren't familiar with Seven Spires, can you give us just the thumbnail sketch of how the band came together?
Sure. I had the idea for the band very early. I was actually still living in the UK. I had written a couple of demos in 2012 and early 2013, and then I moved to Boston, Massachusetts that summer to attend Berklee. And in my first week there, I met the guitar player Jack. And within minutes, we realized that basically we were musical soulmates. And so that was kind of how the band formed.
And you mentioned your partner in crime, Jack Costo. Man, he is an amazing guitarist. The guitar melody on stage, just to mention one song off the new album, Man, when I first heard that, I thought I was listening to Thomas Youngblood. He is so talented. What's it like performing and writing with someone with that kind of gift?
I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's the most precious, most amazing thing I've ever experienced. And every day that I get to write with him or play on stage with him, I feel so lucky.
And you yourself have had the benefit and luck of playing with other artists in a number of other bands. Can you mention just a few of those?
Yes. I play keyboards in a band called Ones with Plague, which is a little bit different. It's symphonic deathcore, and I'm also the backing vocalist. I sing in a band called Light and Shade, which features the guitar player and bassist of the band Temperance and our guest drummer Alex Lanenberg from Luca Turilli's Rhapsody. I also sing in a hard rock band called Firstborn, and I've done a couple of guest spots here and there, including Jeff Williams, who writes the music for the animated series Ruby, and I also guested briefly with Amaranth when we opened for them a couple years ago.
What does that do for you as an artist to have those different artistic outlets to be able to express yourself in different styles and genres? Does that help you in each of those areas?
Yes, I need it because I like to do a lot of things. Some people would say that it's frustrating how free I am. I don't like to be stuck doing one thing. So to be able to have so many different outlets is really, really a blessing, I think. And it pushes me to grow as an artist and just as a songwriter especially. So, yeah, it's really, really cool.
Earlier you cited your attendance at Berklee School of Music. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience there? What does that kind of formal training do for you as an artist?
It was extraordinarily challenging. I'm a good student all through regular school until I dropped out and got my GED. I was a good student, and then when I got to Berklee, it was so challenging, and you get there and you're like, well, I'm going to the best music school in the world, so I must be amazing already. And then everybody else there is also equally amazing, and you realize you're nothing. And a lot of people will drop out because it's too hard or it's too much or too expensive. But I really think that it's super worth it. You get to the end and you realize that you know so much about the way music works and the way like how you can use music theory to emotionally affect people, and how to survive the industry. I think having a formal education like that is extremely important, and if anybody is looking to have a actual proper career, it's definitely at least trying to have.
I'm curious, when you mentioned to your fellow students and your instructors about your particular interest in heavy metal music, how do folks respond to that? I mean, are they into that? Do they understand what it's about?
Well, in most cases, if you attend as a metal musician, you're maybe not taken so seriously. But when I auditioned, they actually gave me a full scholarship because I was a rock and metal musician. At the time, I was doing more sort of rock and roll stuff. But my scholarship was funded by Lollapalooza Festival. So it was actually a benefit for me. And I guess also maybe because I'm a vocalist instead of a guitar player or a drummer or something. There aren't very many of my kind. So it's more a novelty. So if you show up to your class and you say, yes, I'm a metal singer, and they go, wow, do you do that like screaming stuff? And you look them dead in the eye and you're like, damn right I do.
That's awesome. Well,
yes.
Adrienne, let's talk a moment about the band's first full-length release, Solveig, released just this August. What's been the response so far?
Probably like 90% overwhelmingly positive, which is a huge relief. There are a few people who are kind of like, I don't get it, and that's basically the only sort of negative reviews that we've seen. It's just, people who don't get it, or like somebody was saying we're like arch enemy light because on iTunes we are listed as black and death metal, which I disagree with, and I'm not sure why we're listed as that. But, somebody was just misled and therefore upset that I wasn't Alyssa from Arch Enemy. But yeah, aside from that, we played in Metal Days in July, and that was our first European show, and we were extremely, extremely well received. All of the media partners of the festival were super into us, and we had, tons of people interested, and I really I couldn't be happier. So yeah, it's been great.
The band released some of the songs on Solveig previously via the 2014 EP, The Cavalry of Dreams. I'm curious, when were the newer tracks written, and how did you go about integrating them together with the established material?
The new tracks were written between 2014 and 2015. We write all the time. It's just kind of the way we are. But so the Cavalry of Dreams EP is Act 1, and Solveig is Act 1 and Act 2, and we re-recorded all of Act 1 when we went to go make the Solveig record. So it is a concept album, and so we basically just continued the story, and that's how the songs were integrated with the original EP.
And you mentioned that Solveig tells something of a story. How long had that narrative been in the works?
Since day one. I like to tell. Sorry?
Oh, you've been thinking about it for years, I take it?
Yes. We actually, this is a little funny. We have 2 albums already written to put out next, and they are related to the story of Solveig. So I guess I sort of created a universe and told this story within it. And, I have maps of the world where it takes place, like all over my studio walls, and character designs and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Good to know for folks who enjoy Solveig, which I am one of them, that there's more to come. Now, the album was produced by the incredible Sasha Path, who many metal fans know from After Forever, Camelot, Epica, some of my favorite bands right there. What was it like?
Me too.
Yeah, what was it like to interact with someone of that stature?
It has slowly become normal, but I have been speaking with him since 2013, so it's taken about 4 years for me to feel comfortable with the idea that I am working with the Sasha Path, who has worked with like all of my favorite vocalists, basically. If you can imagine, like 18-year-old Adrienne sitting at her laptop, like, okay, I'm about to cold email the guy who worked with Roy Khan and ask him to work on my voice in my band. How do I feel about this? And so, we would exchange emails, and obviously he said yes, he would work with us. And so through some, calls and email exchanges, I got more comfortable with the idea. But then when I flew to Germany last year to finish the tracking, Toby from Edguy, Toby Samet, called him while I was warming up, and the sort of reality of whose studio I was at kind of hit me in the face again, because I'm a fan. So it's really, really cool to work with him. I feel super lucky.
And the results speak for themselves. The musicianship and then his production has created quite an amazing album. Now, that album, to produce it, you guys utilized crowdfunding via GoFundMe to help support it. Why did you go with that method, and were you happy with the results?
We were stunned by the results. We raised $12,000, which is really amazing for a tiny band. We're like it's weird to say we're a local band, I guess. I don't really necessarily feel like it. It's a weird thing, but we were thrilled. And we had always said we would never do crowdfunding because you see so many bands that do it wrong, or it just it feels weird to ask people for money. So we just treated it like a pre-order. So, hey everybody, the record is finally here. We just need a little bit of help to actually print it and make the merch for it. So here's what we're going to have. You can order whichever one you want. And I made some special merchandise just for the release. For like the super expensive nice packs. I like hand wrote the entire lyric set and put it in like a nice box that I hand stained and all this stuff. So that was basically less of a asking for money approach and more of a pre-order, and that was the only reason we felt okay with it. And then we had some very generous donors, so that helped a lot as well.
And that kind of segues into my next question about your interaction with fans. You folks seem to be very interactive with your fans, both with the crowdfunding and many other ways online. And it seems you have a very strong community of online support. What does that mean to a band to be able to interact with your fans and make them part of the effort?
It means everything, because we can't do anything without them. So it's, to be able to be in contact so closely with people who appreciate your art and just really like everything that you do. I don't know how bands live without it, basically. It's so important.
Well, you guys seem to do a very good job of it. Beginning to wrap up with you now, Adrienne, after ProgPower, what's coming up next for the band and the remainder of 2017? I know you've got a couple of performance dates in October.
Yes, we are opening for I Set to Kill on Wednesday 13 next month, and we have a couple more shows in the Northeast lined up. I think we will try to do some more dates maybe on the East Coast, but Pete and Chris, the bass player and drummer, are still attending Berklee. Jack and I have already graduated, so it's a little bit difficult to work around their school schedule right now. At the moment, we're also already beginning to work on our next full-length record. As I told you, as soon as I came home from the festival, I was working on new demos. So I guess probably for this year, we will finish recording and also begin working. We're already working on tour plans for next year. A lot of good things came out of this festival, so that's kind of all I can say right now, I guess.
Well, I've seen a little bit of the video from ProgPower, and you guys need to be out on the road. People need to see you perform live, but I'm also not telling you not to work on that new material because I want to hear that as well. So finally, Adrienne, what is the best way for fans to purchase music merchandise, including the album Solveig from Seven Spires?
If you are based in the U.S., then we have our own online web store, because actually it's a self-released record. So if you go to sevenspiresband.com, there is a store where you can order the album, our shirts. We have very, very large coffee mugs, which hold a lot of espresso, which I had to test for science. And if you're based in South America, our distributors there are Hellion Records, and in Europe we have SAOL, whom I guess you can order the record and the merchandise from there. So yeah, we're also on Spotify, iTunes, and all that jazz.
And come out to some of those dates in the New England area in October. I'm sure they can pick up copies of Solveig as well as merchandise from you in person at the venue.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Well, Adrienne, I tell you, it's an honor to speak with you. I love your new album. I am so excited. You guys are now on my bucket list of a band that I want to see live. And I'll also tell you, in December, we do our countdown of the best metal albums of 2017. I'm confident Solveig will not only find its place in those discussions, but it's going to be very high on my list.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, again, thanks so much. And again, folks, check out this new album, Solveig by Seven Spires.
Thank you, Robert.